Start Nick and Amy's story. Starts as a classic love story and ends in tragedy. It's complete with an astounding twist. And whether you just saw Gone Girl for the first time, or you still don't quite understand the ending after dozens of rewatches, we're here to help you. This should go without saying, but spoilers for the entirety of Gone Girl are ahead. So here, the story of Gone Girl.
Who are you?
I'm the guy to save you from all this awesomeness.
Starred on the 5th anniversary of the marriage, Nick Dunne goes to the bar to see his sister Margot to discuss his marital life and an unbearable wife. But when he returns home, Amy, his wife, is not there. Furniture was broken and glass are scattered. Nick calls police. The search for the missing Amy Elliott Dunne begins, which is rapidly becoming widely publicized in the media. It becomes known that the couple moved from New York after Nick's mother became ill with cancer. Police find blood spots in the kitchen and a letter riddle in Amy's lingerie. One day after the disappearance, Nick and Amy parents speak at a press conference. The disappearance of the prototype of the main character of the children's books Amazing Amy, sponsored by her parents. The puzzle that is found in Amy's words leads to a second puzzle, which in turn leads Nick to his father's cabin. There he finds an envelope with another note from his wife. The film is often interrupted by flashbacks. Amy writes in a diary memories of life with Nick. First meeting, job loss, moving to Missouri, constant quarrels. Amy tells about how unbearable her husband was, how he beat her for the first time.
No, you can't go on like this.
Oh, really?
I won't.
You won't? You won't? Why, it's not good enough for you?
It's not even close.
How she began to be afraid of him and how she decided to buy a gun. He may kill me. The last entry in the diary. After all these events take place, the scene with Amy safely driving in a car is shown. Some time ago she found that Nick was unfaithful to her, so came up with a plan to get him into prison for her murder. She planned every detail very carefully and went away to a campground to wait for Nick being accused. She has enough money with her to have careless living. But there in the campground, a couple of young people, suspecting Amy of running from someone, rob her of all her money, and she has to look for help somewhere. Amy calls her ex-boyfriend, Desi, and tells his a dreadful story of her life. How Nick cheated on her and beat her. 3 days after disappearance, Margot finds that all this time Nick had a mistress. Meanwhile, a lot of volunteers are going to search for Amy. And Nick is more and more discredited. His incomprehensible behavior is highlighted in the press as a sign of sociopathy. It turns out that Amy was pregnant. An incomprehensible list of purchases follows. Dog robot, golf clubs, TV, and huge debts on the credit card. Everything points out that Nick himself killed his own wife. He becomes the main suspect. Nick hires a lawyer, Tanner Bolt.
You came to the right guy. This is what I do, Nick. This is why I have a $100,000 retainer. I win the unwinnable cases.
$100,000.
And meets with his wife's former boyfriends. Detectives Rhonda Boney and Officer James Gilpin find in the basement a burnt-out diary of Amy Dunne. They arrest Nick, but Tanner Bolt manages to set him free. Tanner offers Nick to perform on the talk show Sharon Schieber, on which he will have to tell about his mistress Andy. On the 7th day of disappearance, Nick carefully prepares for the interview, but Andy performs with the truth faster.
My name is Andy Fitzgerald. I met Nicholas Dunne when he was my creative writing teacher at Mill Valley.
However, Nick does not give up on the talk show. The conversation with Sharon Schieber in a live broadcast drastically changes the attitude of people to Nick Dunne. But still, it does not save him from suspicion and arrest. Meanwhile, Desi takes Amy to his lake house. He is still in love with her and wants to travel with Amy abroad to start a new life. Amy sees that Desi might be a problem and pretends to answer for his feelings. When she finally seems to be cured, she wants to make love with Desi. At that moment, she cuts his throat. After 30 days of disappearance, Amy returns home all in blood and exhausted. She faints into Nick's hands under the flashes of cameras.
You fucking bitch.
She tells a story of how she was kidnapped and raped by Desi. Amy's story is taken warmly and with sympathy by society, but Nick knows that his wife is a monster. Amy artificially inseminates herself with Nick's sperm and thus ties him to herself. Nick has no way out as feels responsible for the child and stays with Amy.
I didn't touch you.
You didn't need to.
Bullshit. At notice of disposal. I have that. You threw it out.
Amy quite possibly had mental health disorder called Munchausen syndrome, also known as factitious disorder imposed on self, where you falsify, exaggerate, or induce physical, emotional or cognitive disorders. We've seen Amy was actually able to injure herself enough to convince others that she had been the victim. Amy frames her husband for her murder, driven, among many things, by revenge for his infidelity. Along the way, she kills a man and remains unconcerned about hurting her family, getting into legal trouble, or, frankly, much of anything else. It's such fearlessness is a defining characteristic of psychopaths, who are incredibly daring and take risks and are unafraid of negative consequences. Amy goes to her husband's bar to surprise him and sees him kissing and leaving with another woman. Amy seeks revenge by framing him for murder after months of fastidious planning. Amy's desire for revenge. If somebody cheats on you, breaks up with you, it can spark a lot of aggression or desire for revenge. Amy's desire to be the center of attention. Perhaps best illustrated by the enjoyment she gets out of watching news coverage of her disappearance, and also characteristic of someone with narcissistic personality disorder. Amy having to put on a mask, suppress anger, frustration and just smile. And take it when men disrespect them and destroy them inside. That emotional and psychological abuse hurts women too. Her actions are an extreme of taking back control in a patriarchal society. Of course, that in real life she should dump him and find a man who she is more compatible with. But the revenge fantasy is satisfying to watch. The actual film itself reflects the theme of a false persona and a charade. People went in expecting a Fincher thriller, The Cool Girl as a film, and then it changed and stopped holding up to the expectations and revealed the gritty underlayer, the uncomfortable satire. The actual film itself is of bait and switch as much as Amy or Nick were. We still have plenty movie like this. Click this link to watch Matchpoint movie plot. Summary. This movie starred by Scarlett Johansson. The same actress played as Black Widow on Marvel Avenger. While you at it, hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe. You might even want to hit that bell and you will get notified every new video comes out. Alright, we will see you soon on the next video. Later.